the review of the Nissan Magnite 1-liter turbo manual XL. This is the cheapest turbo petrol manual you can buy in the Nissan Magnite. Okay, so let's talk about the front seats in the Nissan Magnite. Now, these seats, because this is the base manual variant, the XL, these seats aren't adjustable. So the driving position is not perfect, to be honest, because the angle of the seat base and the backrest, I think the base is a little bit too deep. Personally, I didn't find this the best position, especially since it's logged for lifetime. So it's an okay sort of a position. I think that's one thing. The second thing is, in terms of the plastic quality, in terms of the interior, very hard plastics, but it's okay. That's the norm in this segment, and I don't want to find fault with the vehicle because of that. In fact, I like that even in the base variant, this trim that you get near the armrest, that is cloth. You don't get that in a lot of more expensive cars as well. Since this is the base variant, it also comes with this non-touch screen music system, which is okay in my opinion. I am not a fan of a lot of equipment in the car. Even this system works for me. One thing that I find particularly annoying in this music system is your volume buttons are here on the left, while your tune button, the radio tune button, or the going to the next track, that is in the center. So you always get confused, like you want to change your volume, you move this knob, but that's not for the volume, that's for tuning or for going to the next track. So a very different setup. But I think this is a system from Renault, and some of that French quirkiness had to enter the Nissan Magnite as well. One thing that I absolutely do not like in this car is the instrument cluster. It feels very childish, gimmicky. First and foremost, because you cannot read the RPMs properly. You only get those in the 500, in ranges of 500, which isn't great. The second thing is also the speedometer. There is no actual analog speedometer or even a digital speedometer that can, be the full size. Can't do that. I do not like this setup, definitely, in the Nissan Magnite. I really like the fact that they have given this auto climate control in the base variant, the base turbo petrol manual variant of the Magnite. That's amazing. That's a lot of value. In terms of the layout of the dashboard, this is the Lamborghini Urus inspired dashboard. I think it looks really good, even in the base variant. And I would say, in terms of the overall interior, I would choose this interior over the Baleno. Okay, so let's talk rear seats, and I think this is where the Magnite really moves the game forward. I've set this seat to my position, and I'm 5'11" for reference, and even after that I have around 3-4 inches of knee room spare, and I can easily stretch my legs out. So this is much more than I have in my Ford EcoSport, and this is comparable to what you get in an XUV 300 or even the Nexon. Now, those two SUVs, the seats are a little bit more comfortable. This is more like a bench seat, but still, in terms of space, Nissan has done a really good job here. In terms of the overall comfort of the seat, I think the backrest is a little bit too upright in the Magnite. I would have preferred a little bit more reclined position, but you get a center armrest in the base variant as well. And yeah, this is a really good space to spend a lot of hours in. If I was comparing this to the rear seat of the Baleno, now the Baleno also has a lot of room in the rear seat, but you sit higher up here, and I think I like, as I said before, the dashboard of the Magnite more than the Baleno. It feels more modern. Baleno is now an old car, and it feels so. So I would choose the rear seats of the Magnite over those in the Baleno. Now, I had shot the Magnite review a while back, and after that, the Baleno has been refreshed, and it gets a lot of new features like a heads-up display and the new fancy 360-degree camera. and an entire dashboard with much better materials. However, most of these changes are restricted to the alpha variant of the Baleno. So what I did was I also looked at the Zeta variant of the Baleno. This is the Zeta variant of the Baleno, one that goes directly against the Magnite XL Turbo. Just quickly wanted to include this in the review as well, because this changes things a little bit. The quality of the interior definitely has gone up, especially with these buttons. This part of the dashboard definitely looks better, and this leather insert in the handrest is also something that's very premium. The biggest change, however, is this, the SRS airbag. It now gets 6 airbags even in the Baleno. These changes are significant, especially the one on airbags. While this interior is a step change from the old Baleno, I don't think it is something that will change my opinion completely on the Baleno versus the Magnite. So, yeah, that's the overall assessment of the new Baleno. I think the actual evaluation will be complete after I drive it, but as of now, I think I'll still choose the Magnite. Now, driving the Magnite in the city, the first thing that you realize as soon as you start driving the Magnite is that the clutch placement isn't perfect. So typically what happens is that the clutch is pressed, it's almost like this, and you press it, right? In Magnite it's something like this, so it goes all the way around, and it's a very strange position actually. So if you are keeping your foot right above the clutch in anticipation for a gear change, that position is very awkward. That's one thing. The second thing you realize is the size of the Magnite is almost perfect for the city. It's small, it's nimble, it's agile, and it doesn't feel any larger than a hatchback. So if you have driven any of your Balenos or Swifts, this doesn't feel much larger than them. One thing I do not like about the Magnite is that the gearing is a bit too tall for my liking. So what that means is that you cannot like trundle around in, let's say, third. So you'll have to downshift a lot of times. Third gear, 25 kph, turbo lag, crossed to 2000 rpm. Around 40-45 is when it starts to pick up speed. That's when you feel the difference. Even then, the force of the turbo isn't as strong as, say, you would find in a Volkswagen TSI or even the Hyundai 1-liter turbo. They feel more forceful, more connected to the wheel. So there is the response is much better in those engines, and also I think the gusto of the engine is much stronger. You feel that the engine has much more excitement, willingness to rev. Okay, one thing I would like to discuss is the noise that you get as soon as you get to 80. I'll just play that again. This sound that comes when you cross to 80 is the most cheap sound that you can hear in the entire car industry. I don't mind it, to be honest, because it's okay. The vehicle is built to a cost, but it's a sound that you would listen so many times in a day. They could have made it a little bit more pleasing. Let's talk about the engine in this one. This engine is a 1-liter turbo, makes around 99 bhp and 160 Newton meters of torque. This, I think, is the least powerful 1-liter turbo engine that is there in the market right now. I think Hyundai also has a variant in the Nios with a similar power output. The engine in the Nissan Magnite does not feel punchy at any point of time. It's this linear build of power that's always sufficient, but never more than that. It won't excite you with its power delivery. There is no kick in the pants. There is no push that you get with the turbo. I think that's largely, again, as I said, because of the taller gearing. So at 80 kph, if you move into fifth, for example, nothing. You have to wait for the turbo to spool up, and at around 90-95 is when you feel the pull from the engine. What's good though is if you spin the engine, there is power for sure. The other flaw in the Magnite's package is its steering, which is devoid of any feel or feedback. I think the weight calibration has been done properly. It's very light at low speeds, weighs up decently well, not the perfect, but good enough as the speeds go up. But in terms of feedback, there is almost nothing. One thing that doesn't work in the favor of the Magnite is if you rev the engine, it sounds very sad. It sounds like the 800 or the K10 petrol motor of the Maruti. The K10 actually sounds happy, but it has that low speed sound of the K10, but it sounds really bad at higher RPMs. Now if you want to drive the Magnite fast, there are two things which work against each other. One is the brakes in the Magnite are really good, and they give you a lot of confidence while driving hard. So emergency braking from high speeds, no drama at all. What doesn't work in its favor is, one, the high speed stability of the car isn't great. It starts to feel a little bit floaty at around 105, 110. And the other piece is the body roll as well. So if you're doing fast speeds and you have to change lanes or go through corners, the Magnite does not inspire confidence. It doesn't feel grounded. In terms of ride quality, the Magnite does a really good job compared to the stiffer compact SUVs like the Ford EcoSport for sure. The EcoSport is much more stiffly sprung than this one. This, in some cases, is as good as the XUV300 suspension, but it does not have that maturity to handle all the bumps as well as the XUV300. Over some broken patches of road, the Magnite does feel skittish if you try to go really fast. So that's where the difference is between this and the XUV300. How would I compare the Magnite to the Baleno? Now I'm driving the XL Turbo variant of the Magnite. This is the base turbo petrol manual variant, and it goes for around 7.5 lakhs right now, ex-showroom, Mumbai. And it's very close in terms of its price to the Baleno Delta variant. So what would I choose between these two? I would say that the long distance touring capability in the Magnite is definitely better, and that's because the 1 liter turbo actually makes it very effortless to do high speeds and long distances. And especially yesterday I was traveling with 3 people and with a boot full of like 3 trolleys, easily 60 kilos. So you can assume like we had almost 4 people in the car. So with that much weight, you can feel that the performance of the Baleno, it actually dulls down. But with the Magnite, because of the turbocharger, the difference wasn't as much as it is in a naturally aspirated engine. So the Magnite was cruising along really well, even with 4 people in the car. However, if I was driving mainly in the city, I would choose the Baleno over the Magnite, especially the manual, because I think the Baleno feels more effortless because of the tuning of its engine and gearbox, especially the gearbox and clutch. The clutch isn't heavy, it's just that it isn't set up properly, as I talked about, right? The position of the clutch isn't great, and that can become painful in the city. Now, if you're choosing between the Magnite and the other more premium compact SUVs, I think what's missing in the Magnite is that X factor that makes it different from the competition. The XUV300 has its ride and the amazing engine. The Venue and the Sonnet have a much premium interior and features that differentiate them from the rest of the competition. The Nexon has its build quality, safety, and also the ride and handling balance of the Nexon. So Magnite does not have anything that makes it stand out compared to the competition, and I think the way it differentiates is in terms of value, how much cheaper it is compared to the competition. I think in terms of performance, this engine slots right between the proper compact SUVs, the 1-liter turbo of the Hyundai or the 1.2 in the XUV300. They are much better in terms of their performance, but this engine is better than the 1.2 naturally aspirated engines by Hyundai or the 1.2 K12 in Marutis. Do I see myself owning a car like this as an enthusiast? No, probably. The reason for that is it's not fun to drive the Magnite. It's a typical compact SUV. It does not have a lot of character. The engine is okay, the gearing is tall, the handling isn't great, but for what it offers to a typical buyer in this space, I have really high respect for what Nissan and Renault have achieved at this price point. So a very credible alternative to a Baleno. I would like to end the review by saying that a lot of people might say that this does not feel like a cheap compact SUV. It does. You feel the difference in terms of the build quality. You feel the difference in terms of the engine, the refinement, all of those things. Small places where corners have been cut to save money. But what I would like to also point out is it'll be a happy compromise. You will be okay letting go of those things for the price point at which this car is available. So it's a very cheerful car. It'll keep you happy, and there are a lot of things in this car that you wouldn't imagine a car that costs so less would provide. So it feels compromised, but it is a happy compromise. That's it from my end in this video. Thanks for watching.